Lamar, called a weak voice on the phone. He sounded so timid and fragile that he barely recognized her. It was obvious that she was crying. He immediately suppressed his rage. He desperately wanted to destroy her world the same way she had destroyed his. But that would be like hitting a baby seal with a club. Gritting his teeth, he replied, "Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry." "Me too, Tess, but it does not change anything." "I know, but I needed you to know." The awkward silence that followed was unnerving. Finally, a question was asked that opened Pandora's box. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why did you humiliate me like that? Do you hate me that much now?" "Damn, I could ask you the same question, couldn't I?" he growled. "Why? Why the hell did you throw away the last 5 years? Was he so incredible that it was worth destroying our marriage?" There was no answer, only her quiet sobs. "As for what I did, apart from exposing you to your families, I have done nothing. I had nothing to do with what was posted on the internet." He knew that this was not entirely true. Still, plausible deniability is a wonderful thing. "As for your family and him," he smirked, suppressing his anger. "Without any evidence, your family would deny that your feces smell, not to mention that you might act like a cheating bitch. Besides, you both wanted to be famous. I just helped make that happen." Tessa Albright Hopkins was a tall, striking blonde who was a professional model and actress. Although she was famous locally and even regionally, she still dreamed of national, if not international, fame. She has appeared in many commercials in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and throughout the state. She performed in the off-Broadway production, which toured the South, and even landed a few small roles in films that were filmed locally in Texas. Now she was on her way to stardom, albeit in the international adult film industry. Her extended weekend in San Antonio last month, filming a series of commercials, produced several videos that ended up on 2 Russian naughty websites. Her co-star was a former NFL player turned actor named Brad. He played for the Dallas Cowboys for several years, although mostly on special teams. Yet, with his good looks, athletic body, and abundance of arrogance, he was the ideal leading man. Besides being a player, both literally and figuratively, Brad had a strong passion for the extra adrenaline rush of public sex. Lamar supposed that he should feel happy that this little quirk had allowed his wife to reveal her infidelities, but Lamar wasn't feeling particularly happy at the moment. He found out about the site 2 weeks ago. He suspected that something had happened the last time Tessa worked with Brad, about 10 months ago, but had no evidence to back up his fears. Now he has them. It broke his heart when he saw the evidence for the first time and watched the woman he adored give herself to another. Slowly, the unbearable pain began to turn into a wave of disgusting rage. The mixture threatened to overwhelm him, but he was able to contain it just enough to do what he needed to do. After seeing the videos, he hired a private investigator to verify their authenticity and gather any additional information. It only took about a week to confirm everything, plus interview some of the people who were on set. He then contacted a divorce lawyer. Lamar Hopkins wasn't proud of the way he confronted his unfaithful wife, but he wasn't ashamed of it. He took the information the detective gave him, along with several edited scenes from the video, and burned them onto 3 DVDs. He put the first one away for safekeeping. The second was sent to Brad's wife and her family. He used the latter DVD for a surprise screening for Tessa's family during their weekend get-together. As the family watched in horror, he walked out the back door, although not before leaving behind his wedding ring, divorce papers, and a short note telling Tessa not to come home. A star is born, he thought, before reproaching himself for his dark sense of humor. "Lamar? What? Can we talk? I thought we were talking. I mean about us? We don't exist, Tessa. Please, honey, don't say that." "Please, honey," he hissed. "You can't be so stupid as to think that sex with that bastard won't ruin our marriage." "It was a mistake. I didn't think so. I got so caught up in everything that I lost sight of us. I'm so sorry, honey." "Me too. However, I'm not sure what kind of mistake you're talking about, he replied, his pain and anger palpable even through the phone. Judging by what was on the video, you had sex with him on the river embankment in several secluded places. You also had sex with him at SeaWorld. One of the best moments was being seen with the killer whale in the background. Oh, and how he took you near the Alamo wall at night will forever be remembered. Remember the Alamo. Now I'll definitely remember. He heard her start to cry. So what kind of mistake are we talking about? He continued his attack. Was it because you decided to have a threesome in San Antonio? Or was it because you didn't do it on the 50-yard line at the Alamodome? Or maybe you didn't do it on one of the rides at Six Flags Fiesta Texas amusement park? Or maybe it was the mistake you denied making with this same bastard last winter, when you were filming a commercial at the Gaylord Hotel in Dallas. No, I told you that there was nothing then. Liar, he shouted before regaining control of himself. I don't believe you, and I doubt I'll ever believe you again. Tessa's quiet crying suddenly stopped as soon as she disconnected the connection. That's what I thought, Lamar growled into his phone. He sat down heavily in his chair. He was exhausted both mentally and emotionally. He felt the blood pulsating in his ears and focused on the rhythm. He saw the signs. He knew it was coming, but he couldn't find a way to stop it. This was most disappointing. He was good at identifying problems, finding solutions or workarounds and implementing them, although never with something so personal, so close to home. This was definitely his responsibility since he was the project manager. He led the development team in the American Airlines department. Quietly, he reflected on how his marriage and his life had fallen apart. The first domino had fallen, at least as far as he knew, 10 months ago. Tessa spent a few days at the Gaylord Texan Resort in Grapevine, a northern suburb of DFW. She filmed several commercials for a regional jewelry chain. It was the perfect location, with its smaller indoor versions of the riverfront and Alamo. This was supposedly the first time she worked with Brad, and he noticed that as soon as she returned, something changed. A few days later, he heard hints that something had happened during filming. He confronted Tessa, but she denied everything. She was so devastated when he accused her that it almost broke his heart too. Without evidence, he was forced to wallow in his suspicions and uncertainty. He understood that his remaining doubts were poisoning their marriage, but he did not know how to resolve them. Over the next few months, things slowly returned to a fragile state of normalcy. When she announced she was filming in San Antonio with Brad, all the doubts and fears resurfaced. She tried to reassure him that it didn't mean anything, just professional filming. When his concerns did not subside, she became defensive. Lamar tried to hide his personal problems, but his anger and disappointment burst out. Tessa noticed this, but did not know how to alleviate his condition. In the end, she simply ignored it, hoping to avoid another confrontation. His team at work noticed it right away, too. Believing that the problem might be familial, he was approached by two women from his team, Kelsey and Kama. Kelsey, the self-described sparkle of the team, was under 5 feet tall and weighed perhaps 40 kilograms wet. She had bright red curly hair surrounding her sweet face and piercing green eyes. Although she looked like a teenager, she was already in her late 30s. Kama, on the other hand, was a tall Indian woman in her early 30s. She always had a certain grace, no doubt from her high social background. Her striking beauty was only marred by her strong overbite. Still, her dark hair and eyes and her feminine figure made her quite attractive. So attractive that the other two members of the team, Raj and Marty, followed her around like loving puppies. Gradually, both women wore him down, and he eventually shared his concerns. Within hours, his team gathered around him. They were close as a team, as long hours and impossible deadlines took their toll. As they surrounded him, Lamar fought the urge to say, "Oh, look, we're in the land of small people," since everyone on his team, except Kama, was short. Raj was a small, wiry Indian in his early 20s. While everyone on Lamar's team was very smart, Raj was frighteningly smart. Marty was also short, maybe a little over 5 feet, and weighed at least 200 pounds. With his round face, curly black hair, and wire-rimmed glasses, it was easy to see some resemblance to a hobbit. Dressing up as Frodo Baggins a couple of years ago for a Halloween party cemented his nickname. At just over 6 feet tall, Lamar towered over them. However, at that moment he felt very, very small. Their reactions were quite predictable. Kelsey thought he should go to San Antonio and run into Tessa. Kama offered consultation. Raj suggested hacking into her personal accounts, and Marty wanted to try to sell her to a Mexican brothel. Although they wished him well, Lamar doubted the wisdom of following their relationship advice. Kama had the most relationship experience in the group, but she changed boyfriends as often as she changed outfits. Kelsey had been dating a guy for several years with varying degrees of success. Lamar lost count of how many times they broke up during this time. He wasn't sure, but he thought they were in another breakup at that time. Raj was a genuinely nice guy, but his computer genius was accompanied by a lack of social skills, which he had virtually none of. Besides, he was so in love with Kama that he would support any idea she had. Marty was another mystery. Usually friendly and pleasant, he had a dark side. Lamar believed that Marty was still living in his parents' basement. He was also sure that Marty acquired all of his social skills on social networks. Lamar didn't know what to do. In the end, he decided not to hire an expensive detective. The cost and possible exposure, if nothing happened, was too much of a risk, even though Marty said he knew someone who could do it cheap. Tessa looked so hurt and angry the last time that Lamar felt he would seriously damage their marriage if he didn't give her the benefit of the doubt. With the situation remaining unresolved, Lamar returned to feeling that his marriage was in danger. His concerns after her trip were heightened by her reactions when she returned home. It was like a honeymoon when Tessa tried to kill him with sex in the first week. When Lamar asked her about it, she exploded. The next week was the complete opposite. Ice cold. At the end of the second week after Tessa's trip to San Antonio, Lamar was approached by Kelsey and Marty. Or rather, Kelsey was dragging a clearly reluctant Marty. "Tell him, Frodo," Kelsey demanded. Marty looked very uncomfortable, shifting from foot to foot. "Damn it, Marty, tell him," she blurted out. Lamar expected her to stomp her foot. "Ah, well, damn it, Lamar. Sorry, but I somehow came across this site and, well, there were some videos." "Marty, I really don't want to hear about your latest sex sessions." "Well, this time you might want to. The blonde in those videos looked a lot like your wife." "Tessa," he replied, shock and doubt evident on his face. Marty nodded. I don't believe you." "It's true, Lamar," Kelsey intervened. "I saw them, and it's your wife and that guy Brad having sex in public." "Did you see this?" Lamar wrinkled his face. His world began to slowly collapse. "Have you watched an adult video?" Marty couldn't help but chuckle, and Kelsey's face turned as red as her hair. "Not in this case. It's not that I don't." She trailed off. "Doesn't matter. Yes, I saw the video. We all saw it, and it really is your wife." "Has everyone seen them?" Lamar growled. "Yeah," Marty replied. "They were on the internet." "And are you sure it's Tessa?" "Sorry, Lamar," Kelsey said softly, trying to soften the situation, "but I'm sure." Lamar sighed. "I guess I'll need these sites. I'll watch them tonight." "Sorry, Lamar," Marty said quietly and gave him the information. Lamar barely looked at any websites that night. If they showed what he feared, then his 4-year marriage would probably end. When they started dating, Tessa swore she was done with the wild and sometimes decadent aspects of the world of fashion and acting. The evidence that she had returned to this lifestyle could not be ignored. It was necessary to act. In the end, he did watch them. Tessa was absent from the event for several days, allowing him to watch in silence. What he saw shattered any peace he thought he could have. It was the longest night of his life fighting demons. From the pain of betrayal to the frustrated anger of watching his dreams burn before him, Lamar spent the night in bipolar hell. The next day, he began to pick up the emotional pieces. Step by step, he slowly regained control. He started by contacting a detective to check and find any other evidence. In addition, he decided to wait for the report before taking further steps towards ending the marriage. If it came to that, he didn't know exactly what to do. His team had other ideas. "Drop her, bitch," Kelsey snorted. "I need to at least face her, Kelsey," Lamar said. "Why? What can she say?" She objected. "Maybe she's being blackmailed," Kama suggested. "Oh, please," Marty laughed. "You saw the video. She would have to be blackmailed for days on end. You can't tell me that someone on set wouldn't have noticed." "Maybe she was blackmailed," Raj suggested. "Yeah, and maybe she was hit by the Martian bitch's beam," Marty chuckled. Martian bitch Ray, Kama, and Raj asked at the same time. "Whatever," Marty laughed. "But you're going to leave her, aren't you, Lamar?" Kelsey added. "I suspect that's what will happen," Lamar said grimly. "I have a detective who collects facts. I suspect my marriage will end, but I will still need to face her. If I leave her, I'm not sure how to do it." "Just leave," Raj said without further ado. "There must be," Marty added with a smile. "I don't know 50 ways to leave your mistress." The entire group burst into muffled laughter or groans. "Just sneak out the back exit, Jack," Raj declared. "Make a new plan, Stan," Marty quickly added. "Okay," Lamar snorted. "You've made your point." Kelsey smiled sweetly, which meant she was about to say something not at all sweet. "Just throw her under the bus, Gus." "I don't think," Lamar stated, trying to hide a small smile, that was part of the lyrics." "Maybe not," Kelsey replied with an innocent smile that quickly turned into a sinister grin, "but it should have been." "Just put it in the trunk, Monk," Marty added. Kama slowly shook her head, but couldn't help but join in. "Just run for cover, lover." "Burn her at the stake, Jake," Kelsey squealed with joy. "Just sleep with her sister, mister," Marty sang. "God, no," Lamar exploded, looking like he had swallowed something rotten. "She has 2 sisters, both are attractive, but no way. One is so haughty she must be frigid, and the other is the Texas version of a church lady. Both are real prudes, not only no, but hell no." "Then take care of her mother, brother," Raj said, smiling as if he had solved a complex programming problem. "Ugh," Kama and Kelsey cried out in unison. "Then take care of her dad, Chad," Marty almost shouted. "Enough," Lamar said, suppressing his laughter. "Until someone overheard us, and we were all sent to the HR chief for a lecture on political correctness." With a few laughs and giggles, the group fell into an awkward silence. "Thank you," Lamar said quietly. "Your support now means more than you can imagine. However, I myself must decide what to do and how to do it. I am the one who will live with the consequences." Tessa took a deep breath, straightened her dress, opened the door of her BMW, and climbed behind the wheel. As she left her parents' Highland Park mansion, she checked her GPS. A typical 20-minute drive through North Dallas was now estimated at just under an hour. Friday evening rush hour blocked both I-35 and the George Bush Turnpike. A quick glance at her watch reminded her how late she was. Now she was 30 minutes late, and now she would arrive just as he was leaving. "Damn it, this isn't happening," she thought to herself. "Not now, not tonight." She checked her GPS again to find the fastest route. Her destination was simple, her home in Plano, or at least what was her home until a week ago. Now everything was in chaos. She suppressed a sob. She replayed last Friday night in her head for the 100th time. That was when her world fell apart, and it started with that terrible video. In fact, she knew that this was not the case. Her world began to fall apart almost 10 months ago when she allowed Brad to cross boundaries that should have been reserved only for her husband. She didn't sleep with Brad, but their cuddling and groping session on the boardwalk in Gaylord was a harbinger of what really happened in San Antonio. Her cheeks flushed with shame and memories of desire. She would prefer to say that she didn't know why it happened, but she knew all too well why she gave in. There were reasons for her incredibly stupid actions, but they all sounded like excuses. The truth was unflattering and made her what she knew herself to be, selfish. However, the way her husband exposed her was cruel. He exposed all her extramarital horrors for everyone to see. When the DVD first started playing, it looked like one of the movies they had all agreed to watch. Fortunately, there were no children there. They were entertained in another room with their own movie. Tessa snorted, realizing that her husband had made the DVD intro so he could sneak away before all hell broke loose. He took the remote control away so that it would be a while before someone could stop the show. She knew this because he left the remote control on the pile with the engagement ring and divorce papers. What was left behind was chaos. Everyone there immediately recognized her and Brad. Within 30 seconds, enough sound fragments were heard to leave no doubt about what they were seeing. It was her and Brad having sex in several public places. She was glad that only her face, breasts, and butt could be seen in the video. And of course, that she had sex. Luckily, whoever filmed the video did not have access to their hotel rooms. Making her family see it was really bad, but seeing her in a threesome with Brad and some young makeup artist. Her family reacted as she expected. Her mother was in shock and simply cried, while her father looked at her with judgment. Her brother gave her a dirty look as he led his embarrassed girlfriend out of the room. Her overly pious sister and her husband couldn't even look her in the eyes as they left. The other sister arrogantly walked up to her and hit her. As she and her husband left, Tessa couldn't help but notice her brother-in-law staring at her. Of course, the party ended soon after. All that remains is to assess the damage and begin cleaning. The divorce papers were obvious, but what spoke most about Lamar's thoughts was the note he left behind. The letter named Russian websites and confirmed that Lamar had hired a private investigator. It also made clear that it was giving effect to the marriage contract that he had insisted on. Her father. The prenuptial agreement was fairly standard, but contained an infidelity clause. The consequences of infidelity were fairly mild, with only minor changes in the percentage distribution of assets that each spouse received, but if applied, it clearly pointed to infidelity as one of the reasons for divorce. In Texas, which has a no-fault divorce policy, this had some significance. Tessa couldn't help but shed a few more tears as she remembered his letter. It was short and to the point, just like Lamar himself, but it was filled with so much pain and anger. It simply said that she should not return home without calling first. He changed the locks, and since their house was his before the wedding and was covered by the prenuptial agreement, he wanted all her things out by the end of the weekend. He continued to call her a cheater, a bitch, and a slut, words Lamar would never have said to her before. She knew there was some truth to those labels, but knowing that her husband now thought that way about her hurt deeper than she could have ever imagined. Tessa pulled into George Bush and began changing lanes, trying to make up for lost time. Unfortunately, Friday night traffic didn't allow for that. She tried to suppress another sob, accepting the fact that she would arrive more than an hour later than expected. She'll have to call Lamar and tell him. This won't surprise him, she chided herself. I have never been on time in all the years of our marriage. She calmed down and dialed his number. Hello, Lamar answered sternly. Tessa froze. Her stomach churned and tears streamed down her face again. She hoped his anger would subside by now. They had talked so many times this week, and each time she felt that he was better at dealing with the pain, but his anger never subsided. Tessa. Hi, darling, she said, trying to smile. It's me. Damn it, Tess, I told you not to call me that. Resilient, she continued. Sorry, honey, it's so hard. I promise I will try better, she said, knowing it was a lie. She knew her only chance of saving the marriage was for him to continue to think of them as a couple. Why are you calling, Tess? Oh, Lamar, I'm stuck in traffic, she said with a hint of plea in her voice. I've been here for, I don't know how long. Silence answered her. Lamar, she asked carefully, I told you, Tess, that if you want to talk to me, I will be here until 7 in the evening, he replied coldly. I have something else to do at 8, and as you said, traffic is terrible at that time. I thought saving our marriage was more important than any meeting, she answered sharply out of disappointment. If that was the case, Lamar growled, then why wasn't it important enough for you to show up at the appointed time? What was so important that you would be an hour late for this oh-so-important meeting? Staying late at the hairdresser? Couldn't choose what to wear? Couldn't it fit in with your other obligations? Please, Lamar, she said quietly, please don't be cruel. I know I ruined everything. I love you. I know you don't believe it, but I love you. Tess, we've already discussed this at least a dozen times this week. But not face to face, always on the phone. I need to see you, Lamar, please. Okay, I'll call and say I'll be late. But it will only be for a little while, maybe 30 minutes or so. 30 minutes. Is this all our marriage means to you? Are you kidding? He barked. Do you really want me to answer that? See you when you finally arrive. When she heard him disconnect, she felt hopeless. Their marriage wasn't just damaged, it was on life support. His greatest fear became reality. How could they hope to overcome this now? She prayed that he would be able to do something almost unthinkable. Trust her again. How can you convince someone not to be afraid when you both know perfectly well that he should be afraid? Tessa sighed, remembering. She joined other desperate hopes when she began modeling at 14. By the age of 18, she was walking runways all over the South. This only lasted about 14 months. By then, her body had fully developed, and she was on the verge of being too curvy for the fashion catwalk. When one door closed, another opened, and she became a lingerie and swimsuit model. To complement her career, she also took up acting. By the age of 22, she was tired of this lifestyle. She still loved her job, but the sexual expectations, offers on the casting couch, and heavy partying were starting to wear her down. Then she met Lamar Hopkins. He didn't have the looks of a model, but he was in good shape and looked boyishly cute. His wit and humor made her laugh, and she was sure she could easily get lost in his dark brown eyes. They dated informally for the first few months, but Tessa soon realized that Lamar was the one she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. He was her rock, her safe haven from the chaos of her world. Whether it was simply relaxing in his arms, watching the Texas sunset, or a night of passion intertwining their hearts and bodies, Tessa knew this was what she craved. This is what her heart and soul demanded. Although Tessa was confident in them as a couple, Lamar was not. She knew that he loved her. His desire and passion for her were obvious. What Lamar was concerned about was her career. He had serious doubts and fears, not about her, but about the industry, and he had every right to do so. The worlds of fashion and acting were hell for even the strongest marriages. He often mixed sex, money, and power. The lines between reality and fantasy were often blurred, if not completely erased. From the nature of the role-playing, to the expected nudity, to the physical combination of very attractive people, the sexual tension was extreme. Tessa couldn't remember the number of times she had been approached, tempted, or even coerced by directors, agents, photographers, or producers. She even knew agents and agencies that encouraged such business connections. It was this fear that made Lamar struggle with the decision about their future together. It took her months to convince him that she was done with the extra aspects that surrounded the actual work of modeling and acting. Now, after years of loyalty, navigating these traps, she has failed. She fell, but not because of anything in their marriage. Their marriage was still her foundation, the place on which she built her future. The passion between them faded a little after the first few years, but it still burned intensely. No, the reason she gave in to temptation this time was simple. Fear. Tessa is almost 29 years old, well past her prime in the modeling world. In a little over a year, she will have to decide whether she wants to continue her modeling career and become a model in her 30s or a silver model. It was a decision she had been avoiding, but the thought of leaving the modeling business was unimaginable to her. She saw others trying to hold on as long as possible. Their desperate attempts to prolong their careers saddened her, and the thought that she would soon find herself in the same position frightened her. Another option was to take acting seriously. To do this, she needed to move to Los Angeles or New York. Both of these cities seemed intimidating because she wasn't a big fish in her little pond. The third option was one she found difficult to even talk about change careers entirely. Several times when she and her husband discussed this, the conversations became very emotional and harsh words were spoken. She realized that most of these words came from her, and she lashed out mainly out of fear. Please, God, she prayed as she drove, don't let him ask me to give up my dream. I know she will change, but please. She spent the rest of the trip trying to think of ways to save their marriage. When she finally pulled into the driveway, she was already emotionally exhausted. The anxiety and anticipation of the meeting brought a rush of adrenaline, but she felt exhausted. After fixing her makeup, she got out of the car and headed to the front door. His greeting was cold at best. She stepped forward to hug him, but he stepped back and shook his head. "Lamar, I'm so sorry," she began. "Me too," he answered coldly. "Why don't we go to the living room? Would you like something to drink? Something stronger, please. I think I'll need this." "Your usual gin and tonic?" "Yes, that will be good. Thank you." She watched as he quickly prepared her a drink and then led them into the living room. He looked good in a nice shirt, jeans, and cowboy boots. She hoped he would notice her outfit tonight as she tried to look her best. "You look good," she said quietly. "You too, but you always look good." "Thank you. Did you say you have a date today?" "No, I didn't say that," he replied sharply. "I'm meeting with my team at work for German food and beer. We're meeting not far from here at the Bavarian Grill. I don't want them to wait, so say what you need to say." "How can you be so cold? It's like you don't care anymore." He snorted in obvious disgust. "I care," he said, the pain evident in his voice. "I wish I didn't care, then it would be easier. When I found out, it almost killed me. Luckily, you were not at home when I saw these videos. I screamed, swore, and cried. It was terrible. You tore my heart out by cheating on me. The simple truth is that I have no more tears. Now I can look at what's left of our marriage and see things more clearly. I honestly don't see how he can survive. I was hoping to grow old with you, but that won't happen." "No," Tessa begged. "I'm so sorry, dear. I love you. Please don't give up. We can get through this." "I don't see how." "We could go to counseling. I know this will help." "Will help?" he grinned. "How will it help? Will it make you feel better? Because it definitely won't help me trust you. Tessa, your work often takes you away from home. Usually this is days or weeks, but sometimes longer, much longer. When you were on tour with that play, you were away from home for months. I could survive this because I believed that you were faithful, even knowing that you were surrounded by temptations. You knew that my greatest fear was that you would forget me, forget us, and you did it. Darling, I know I failed, but I promise you." "Stop," he interrupted. "You already made these promises and couldn't keep them. I understand that you're sorry, and I even believe that you might still love me, but that's not enough. There is no amount of apology or counseling that will change the fact that I will question your loyalty when you are gone. I can't live like this, Tess. I'm sorry, but I just can't." "Please, Lamar," she cried. "Please try." "You can't." He began, then fell silent, pulling himself together. "Tess, do you really understand what you did? You didn't just fail, you threw me away." "No, I just got lost in this stupid fantasy life and betrayed you. I failed in the us." "No," he shouted, stunning her. "You threw me out. You didn't just cheat on me, Tess. Unless you've suddenly become a huge exhibitionist, you've neglected our entire marriage. You not only gave yourself to another, but you did it publicly and several times. It's like taking disrespect and smearing it with humiliation for me. You have not only forgotten about your faithful husband, you allowed another man to publicly humiliate him." "Lamar, please," she begged. "I didn't want to cause you such humiliation." "Listen, Tess, you're beautiful. Damn, you are the most amazing woman I have ever met. I'm sure you'll have guys begging to marry you as soon as they hear you're single. Find someone who can handle your career and the temptations it offers. Someone who can handle your inevitable mistakes, because that's definitely not me. I don't want anyone else. I want you. You are the one I love. I know you doubt it, but I want a chance to redeem myself. How? He grinned. How can you even begin to atone for this? I don't know, but I will do anything. I know that I betrayed you. If I could find a way to take it back, you know I would. I'm not so sure, Tessa. We both know you're worried about ending this chapter of your career. I have no doubt that was a factor in what you did. So it was. No one understands how much it hurts when someone tells you you're too old, or thin enough, or pretty enough. You can't help but take it personally. There are very few careers where you are judged solely on your appearance or image. While everyone experiences this to some degree, for most careers the main factor is whether you can get the job done. While I'm sure it's true, you knew it when you started working at that meat market. You weren't alone either. Even before we got married, we were a team. I was your biggest cheerleader. You even called me your rock. But Tess, for the last year or so you have refused to talk to me about it. I know it's scary and even overwhelming, but you did everything you could to get through it without me. It seems like you were pitting our marriage against your career. Please, Lamar, she said, tears streaming down her face, don't ask me to give up on my dreams. I'm not asking, he snorted. I wouldn't ask you to do this, so I'm walking away from my dream. My dream for us, because without trust, I will end up destroying any love we still have for each other. Please, Lamar, she whispered, crying. A knock on the door interrupted them. Lamar looked at her as she wiped tears. I'll be right back, he said, rising to answer the door. When he opened it, he was surprised. Hi, said the tiny redhead. I sell Girl Scout cookies. He laughed, inviting her inside. Where is your uniform? Oh, this could be interesting, Kelsey said, smiling and raising her eyebrows. Lamar slowly shook his head and sighed. Come in before you disgrace us both, he said, opening the door for her. She took a few steps into the house, but then froze. He turned to see his soon-to-be ex-wife looking at his employee. What's going on here? Tessa hissed, still wiping away tears. I thought you said this wasn't a date. This is wrong. Kelsey is part of my work team. You met her at the last Christmas party. He saw no sign of recognition in Tessa's eyes. Shrugging his head, he introduced them again. Tessa, this is Kelsey. She works with me. Kelsey, this is Tessa. You already know who she is. Oh my God, Kelsey squealed. You are Tessa Albright. Can I have an autograph? Tessa replied, obviously surprised. Lamar, do you have a black marker? The redhead asked, looking back at him. He nodded carefully, noticing the sparkle in her eyes. Great, she said joyfully. I'll go to the car and get my dildo so she can sign it. What? Tessa screamed. Listen, you little bitch. Shut your mouth, Barbie bitch. Enough, Lamar shouted, stunning both women. Both of you stop. Kelsey, why are you here? I was sent to make sure you don't change your mind about tonight. I'm here to make sure you eat great German food and drink great German beer. Okay, he sighed. We're almost done here. Let's not delay the others. I don't think they minded too much, Kelsey smiled. Kama probably made Raj and Marty tap dance to impress her. The thought made him smile a little. Kelsey moved her purse to her other shoulder. She glanced at Tessa before extending her hand to Lamar. Come on, honey, she said tenderly. It is time. Lamar rolled his eyes, but still approached her. The little redhead grabbed his arm. Tess, we have to go, Lamar said coldly. Burning, but with eyes full of tears, Tessa gathered her things and left the house first. She stopped and turned to her husband. Don't give up on us, Lamar, she said quietly. We are not finished yet. You're wrong, Tess. We ended the moment you chose him over me. Our marriage is dead. All that remains is to bury him. Tessa looked at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. The sight of her pain almost made him hesitate to take her into his arms, but the small hand that wrapped around his arm tightened its grip. He found support in this. The blonde turned and quickly walked towards her BMW. A few moments later, she was no longer there. The couple stood in silence for a few moments before a small voice broke the silence. "Sorry," she whispered. "And me too. This is not what I wanted. I hope to spend the rest of my life with her." They walked silently towards her car. "You know, I could just meet you there," Lamar said wearily. "Really?" Kelsey giggled. "But where is the fun in this? Besides, when you called and said you'd be late, we knew one of us had to come and save you." "And you lost the bet?" "Hell no," she snorted. "There was no bet. I didn't even give them that chance." Listen," he said, looking at his car. "Maybe we should take 2 cars, in case I have to leave early. I'm not sure I'll be the best company tonight." "Oh no," she smiled at him. "1 car. This way, if you get too drunk, it will be easier to drive you home. But we can take your car if you want. Just give me the keys when we get there." "Bossy little thing, huh?" he grinned. "Yeah," she said, smiling back at him. They walked to his car with Kelsey still holding his hand. He opened the door for her, then walked around the car and sat in the driver's seat. Soon they were on their way to a German restaurant. "You know, I'm sorry if I crossed the line there," Kelsey said quietly. "When exactly?" Lamar laughed. "With Tessa, idiot," she laughed. "I mean, I really didn't want to complicate things. Well, not too much." "Well, you weren't helping matters." "And I didn't try," she snorted. "Look, Lamar, she treated you like crap, and then she bats her eyes and says she's sorry and acts like everything is fine again? Oh, hell no." Kelsey shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Finally, she turned to him and gently touched his arm. "Lamar," she said softly. "Yes?" "You must have guessed that it was Marty who hired that guy to follow your wife when she was in San Antonio, right?" He nodded. "Yes, well, I participated too." "I assumed that too." "Aren't you angry?" "No, but I have a couple of questions." "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said quickly. "The guy who filmed shouldn't have sold the video to some website. Marty said the guy wasn't really a detective, and Marty didn't pay him anything else. Then, when that guy made those videos and they were out in public, well, he made some money selling them. Lamar, please believe me, you should not have been humiliated like that. I am so sorry. Okay, I can understand how it happened. I can even understand Marty's involvement, but why you?" Even at the beginning of the evening, he noticed how her neck and cheeks were slowly turning red. Slowly, she took a deep breath and continued. "Because when you mentioned your fears, I knew it would be difficult for you to do what you needed to do to find out the truth. When someone suspects that their spouse is cheating, there is a very good chance that it is true. When I found out that this was the case, I wanted to protect you. You don't deserve this. You deserve someone who will love you enough to keep their damn legs together when tempted." "Well, I agree that I deserve someone like that. Although everyone who enters into a monogamous marriage deserves it. But you didn't answer my question, why?" Kelsey's face froze for a moment, then she leaned back in her seat, staring wide out of the windshield. Because you're a friend and I care about you," she said weakly, keeping her eyes on the road. Ahead. "And you care about me. As a friend?" he asked softly. The little redhead froze, her emotions clear on her face. Finally, she dared to look at the man sitting next to her. There was a small, knowing smile on his handsome face. "Bastard," she snorted, then turned and looked out her window. Lamar barely saw the sparkle in her eyes. "I'm not stupid," she almost whispered. "I know I can never compete with her. She's a model, damn it. My 2 breasts together will not make one of hers, and she's such a damn beauty." "You know," he interrupted, "it's quite clear why Tessa cheated on me. Just look at that bastard Brad. GQ looks and has an athletic body, a former Dallas Cowboys player and a celebrity, at least in this part of the country. There was no way I could compete with him. No, she can't be blamed for falling in love with someone like him." "What are you talking about?" Kelsey screamed. "Don't blame her. Holy devil, are you serious? It doesn't matter if he was a Greek god. The fiery young woman froze, looking at his smile. Bastard, she growled. You, scum. Lamar laughed. Listen, Kelsey, he said softly. I understand what you were trying to say, but you're wrong. Of course, Tessa is beautiful, but this is only the outer shell. This is just a wrapper. It is bright and colorful and attracts attention. Lord, she attracted me. But that's all it is, a wrapper. It's what's inside that matters. What all of this has shown me is that the inside of my soon-to-be ex-wife is just not that special. I don't know what was real in her behavior and what wasn't. I know she's afraid her modeling career is ending, but she doesn't want to admit it. She doesn't even want to talk about it, and has no intention of giving it up. As long as it was me against her career, and her career continued to win, our marriage was doomed. Sorry, he continued. This is not what I wanted to lead to. It's okay, she replied softly. No, I wanted to say that appearance is important, but not as important as what's inside. And Kelsey, you are more than attractive to any man. Kelsey watched him carefully until he turned away and focused on the road. She continued to stare at him silently for several seconds as he avoided eye contact and shifted nervously in the driver's seat. So, she finally said gently, do you like my wrapper? He snorted. Yes, he smiled. You are very attractive to an Irish elf. Shut up, asshole, she laughed. Besides, he continued, I've heard that there are some really explosive things in small packages. You have no idea, but maybe, if you play your cards right. Kelsey, Lamar hesitated. Relax, I know it will be a while before you are ready, she said with a smile. But when you are, I hope you think of me first. Until then, she said, raising her eyebrows, causing them both to laugh. You know, you really did it, didn't you? She continued. What exactly? You found your own way to leave your mistress. You made her a star, Lamar, and freed my ass. They both laughed as she gently reached up and brushed a strand of hair out of his face. You know, everything will really be okay, won't it? She whispered. He nodded. Yes, everything will happen in time. He realized that difficult days lay ahead, but he also knew that he was not alone. He had friends and family and someone special. Whether it would develop into something more, he didn't know, but he had hope. A new chapter has begun.